Join us all in a round of applause in honor of the Bakken Museum, its leadership, staff, and its board members.
Yay! Well, as Chuck said, my name's Alyssa. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the president and CEO of the Bakken Museum. And first, I just want to say thank you so much to Chuck and to Charity and to AAM for the opportunity to be here, and for this acknowledgement of the deep work that the Bakken Museum is doing to center diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in our mission, in our culture, in our programs, in our strategy, and our practice. And in that vein of just gratitude and thanks, I want to say thank you to Joe Imholt for your tremendous leadership in this work. And to Alex, who I think might have popped off the Zoom for a sec, but to Alex also for co-chairing our DEAI task force and committee. There he is. Thank you, Alex. I want to say thank you to the DEAI task force and committee. And so I'm looking at Jim's face and box. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Georgine. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Raquel. Thank you to our board champions. Their work in leading and supporting the governance of the Bakken Museum and being deep champions of our commitment to centering DEAI in everything that we do is shaping the future of change for this museum and for our audiences. And I also want to say thank you to our core group who worked on this report, two staff who have moved on from the Bakken Museum to do incredible work elsewhere, Laura and Felicia, as well as Joe and Alex. And as Chuck mentioned, we based this report on, in part, the Museums and Race report card. And so just a huge, tremendous thank you to Museums and Race for their generous development and open sharing of the Museums and Race report card. It really did provide a foundation and framework for what we built on. I want to say thank you to our past selves at the Bakken Museum, who really held the emergent and ambiguous nature of embarking on this first-time equity report and process. And then also thank you to our future selves for holding the complexity and continued resolve to iterate and build, to dismantle and grow and seed and nurture and combat and improve and deepen. And thank you to our community and this community for celebrating and supporting each other, and really for shining lights and holding up mirrors, for calling on museums to recommit to the truth that museums are anything but neutral. Thank you. Our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility isn't a journey to an end. It's a journey to a beginning and to becoming. It's a practice. And in a time right now, and so often of deep pain and reckoning, and also repair and healing and iteration, to feel belonging and connection really anywhere is profoundly powerful. And that is a deep root of what this work is at the Bakken Museum, is to nurture the conditions in which more people experience belonging and connection in our museum. This report is one attempt in that giant tapestry. And in that, one thread in the report is a practice of reflection and question asking that we deeply value at the Bakken Museum. Questions and reflection are as much a part of the growing and learning as the accountability and actions. So in that vein, I wanted to end with 7 questions for individual reflection for your consideration. And these come from 2 incredible leaders at Rockwood Leadership, Joy Foley and Lucia Castaneda Kimball. Question 1, what gift or contribution do I bring to the spaces I impact in the work ahead? 2, what are 1 to 3 things I want to let go of to help me stay resilient? 3, what places within me or in my life are asking for growth? 4, what have I let go of that I want to bring back into my life? 5, what am I not being honest with myself about? 6, what helps me bounce back when my spirit feels drained? And 7, what boundaries do I need to set for myself or with others for my self-care and resilience? And these are offered as we consider the systems of oppression at play in the deep and ongoing commitment we make to centering DEAI in everything that we do. And I really do invite us all to take a minute to consider our own personal ecology and well-being and reflect on our unique gifts and commit to that practice of care and belonging and connection as we work hard to make meaningful and lasting change towards a more equitable and just future in the museum field and in our communities. Thank you again. And with that, I want to turn it over to Joe, our fearless leader and executive vice president at the Bakken Museum, to bring us into the programmatic portion of our award. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. Thank you, everyone. Great to see everyone here today. What we're going to do next is we're going to move into a discussion much like the discussions we hold in our DEA committee and in our all staff meetings. We hold these types of conversations frequently at the Bakken. A big part of the reason to do so is to normalize having these kinds of conversations and to really explore where our learning edges are with ourselves individually and with ourselves as an organization. So to start with, I'm going to drop some norms in the chat. I'm not going to read through all of the norms out loud, but I would ask folks to look through them. The important one here is that when we get to the actual discussion portion, you may pass. So if you feel uncomfortable or you're not willing or don't feel safe sharing out a reflection, or you're not prepared, that sort of thing, totally fine. You can pass. Very cool. But just take a quick moment to look through these norms, and then we'll go from there.
Joe, for the sake of ASL interpretation, I can read through these.
Oh, would that be beneficial? Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, cool. I'll do so then. Let's see. So the first is when it's a person's turn to speak, as indicated by the order that will be provided in the chat, only that person may speak. The rest of us have the opportunity to listen. We listen with curiosity and resist the urge to interrupt. We resist the urge to comment in the chat during the discussion, even to cheer or to give a thumbs up. Share our time equitably so that we have the opportunity to hear from everybody and that we end on time, because it is the end of the day. Please keep our comments to under a minute as best we can. What we say here stays here. As the expression goes, stories stay, but lessons leave. Practice using I statements. No one should speak on behalf of another individual or for a group of people. Focus on your own experiences. Be open to the kernel of wisdom in each person's story. Expect and accept non-closure. And you may pass. I'm just checking to make sure we have one additional person who just joined. I want to make sure that they're in the order. Here is the order of our discussion today. And as a practice round, we'll do is we're just going to go around and quickly say our names and our organization. So we'll just go around in this room in this order. That's a tier. Thank you, Charity, for adding somebody that I missed. So Alex, would you start us off, please?
Yeah, my name is Alex Askew, and I will pass it to Kaman.
Thank you. My name is Kaman Hillenberg.
Becky?
All right, I'm the first person who didn't remember to unmute. Becky Bergman. I am on the Bakken board, and I serve as president at Gustavus Adolphus College in Minnesota.
I'm Jim Degner. I'm the Visitor Services and Membership Coordinator here at the Bakken Museum, and a member of the DEAI committee, of course.
And I'm Georgine Bush. I'm a board member of the Bakken Museum, and I work for the Bakken Family Office in Kailua Kona, Hawaii.
I'm Molly Huber. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Minnesota Digital Library based at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis.
Will?
Hello, I'm Will. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Bakken Museum.
I'm on here twice, so it confused me for a second. You're fine. I'm Amy Lindquist, and I'm the development manager at the Bakken Museum.
And I'm Raquel Briskin. I am a member of the board of the Bakken, retired from US Bank.
Hi, I'm Ricky Levine. I am the executive director of the Holland Museum in Holland, Michigan.
Jeremy? Oops, Jeremy, you went to mute.
Yeah, he was unmuted. Maybe his audio is not working. Jeremy, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if the audio is not working for you.
Thank you, Charity. Callie?
Don't see Callie anymore.
All right, so maybe has left us. No worries. Susan.
I see Susan too.
All right. This is why we do it this way. Let's see, where am I? Tanya.
Hi, all. My name is Tiana. I am, I think, the only one here who is not in the region. I'm in California. I work for the California Association of Museums. Thank you all for having me here.
I'm Justin Spencer, Director of Education for the Bakken Museum.
Charity, you're next.
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, Amy went already. Charity Counts, AMM.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Wash, AMM, and the National Afro-American Museum and Cultural Center.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alyssa Light at the Bakken Museum. And to Cassie.
I'm Cassie Sackett. I work for Jewish Museum Milwaukee.
And then I think Katie is next.
So, did you say Katie is?
Katie is the last person. I don't know if Katie is able to join by audio, but. Yeah.
Oh. Katie, you are on mute if you are attempting to speak. Right. Well, looking at, you can kind of see the pattern that we will follow there. And so I'm going to drop the question that we're going to discuss today in the chat. This is a basic question that we begin most of our conversations with at the Bakken Museum, some form of this question, but is what surprised you? What was unexpected or made you uncomfortable about the DEI report? Are there aspects of the report that were surprising or where you feel it fell short? So Alex, when you're ready, we can begin.
Yeah, absolutely. As one of the people who was part of making this, I just want to convey it was a huge struggle of trying to decide what went in and what didn't go in. And I think at one point this draft was much longer, and we put a lot of effort into pulling things out and to really narrowing it down, and trying to find that line between what's informative and what felt more performative. And so as I look through this draft and think about next year, and I think about kind of what was surprising this year that we can prepare a little bit more when we repeat this process or iterate on it. I think it's trying to really find that balance of, where did we feel like internally we moved a needle, and where does it feel like we're just saying things because it seems good to say them. And with that, I will pass it to the next person.
All right. It's been a while since I read it, so I'll see how much I can remember. But I think one of the biggest impression I had at the time when I read it was how the Bakken is willing to admit that they don't know all the answers, but that you guys are working toward a goal at least, and so to me it's so refreshing to hear people actually admit that yeah, we don't know it all, but we're willing to work on it, and then we'll keep changing as it goes. So that's for me, and I'll pass it to the next person.
Hi, everybody. Becky Bergman here. Been a member of the board and on this committee, I think, since it was launched, and I've been involved in DEI work for a very long time. And I think what pleasantly surprised me with this report was just pulling together everything that has been happening, some bigger, some smaller, but all quite meaningful, and admiration for those involved in pulling together and writing the report, but not losing track of the future orientation for this work. This is a journey, and it sometimes feels like you're making no progress. And so for me, it was really, I don't know, surprising is a little strong, but really fun to see all the work that's happened. I'll pass it.
Hello, I'm Jim. I was very proud to have been a member of the DEAI committee in my own journey with DEAI work, because I can say that I'm definitely not the same person that I was in 2019. Every year I learn a little bit more. Honestly, the older I get, the more I realize just how much I do not know and how much left there is to learn. What I found, I guess what I initially found surprising was, give me just one second. The initial reaction under the bringing full self to work portion under employment engagement survey, it was, just a little disheartening originally to see that there were some people who either disagreed with or mostly disagreed with the fact that there were folks here who didn't feel comfortable bringing their full self to work. And I was like, am I contributing to that? Is it the culture? But then, of course, I wasn't surprised because I'm, a middle-aged cishet white male. So it's like, I come from a place of privilege. But to see the improvement from 2022 to 2023, just to see that it's slowly improving, and that was just very, very heartening for me. So with that, I will pass.
This is Georgine, and I'm a newer member of the committee. I just joined in the last year, and I was surprised by the amount of absolutely genuine passion and energy for moving forward. And we do have a long way to go, but it's wonderful to be part of a process that will do our best to fulfill our destiny, which is to serve everyone and be a place of comfort for everyone, and to really represent our community.
I have not had a chance to read the report beyond a cursory glance during the course of this meeting, since I just got the link. But so I will pass it this time, but I look forward to reading it in more detail.
Hello. I would say that as I was reading through the report a second time, the main sort of discomfort or awkwardness that I was feeling was the fact that we, in our American culture, rarely put F's, D's, C's, and B's on the proverbial refrigerator to share publicly and to be proud of, because we're very much in the developing stage of the DEI efforts, and it's hard to feel entirely proud of the work that's constantly unfinished and insufficient and challenging in a variety of ways. And so putting it out there to share that vulnerability is something that's a growth step as an organization and within the culture as well. Another sort of element of discomfort that I was sort of feeling was just sort of the nature of statistics and data. And then sort of more specifically, the data just shows how widely and inconsistently little actions and big actions of a small nonprofit can be interpreted, even from within. And I feel like a pro in that is that it offers us learning about how stark and impressive individual differences can be, even in a community and an organization that is susceptible to seeing itself as more homogenous than diverse. And so that feels like it's in itself a small step toward a more inclusive working environment as well. Thank you.
Amy here again. I feel like I have to echo a lot of what has already been said. But in particular, I was thinking what you were talking about, Jim, with talking about bringing full self to work. And I think that is something that often it seems like people are able to bring, but really, like, thinking about different, like, invisible identities that a lot of people have, and just maybe think a little bit more about how much we don't know and what people aren't fully saying, and how reports like this can kind of share things in a little bit of a different way, as long as people are willing to, feel comfortable sharing those thoughts, through a survey or whatnot. But what I might have thought was an obvious thing, like an obvious fact, like, oh, I'm sure that it seems like everyone's so comfortable, as a relatively newer employee to the Bakken. I've been there about 2 years, but it did kind of surprise me to see that, like, oh no, like, I hate to see that there are some people who feel like they can't bring them full selves, and trying to think of, like, ways to continue and move forward with that, of what we can do to make that so that, those numbers continue to move forward and that people can bring their full selves to the workplace. That's all mine. And I will pass to the next person.
And I will echo Amy in saying that I agree with all of what's been said previously, and I do think what made me uncomfortable, but which also gratified me, was as somebody said, that the fact, I think, Becky, that we're willing to be vulnerable. Like, it made me uncomfortable that we weren't perfect, which, not that I expected it, but that was sort of my initial reaction. And having worked for a big, publicly traded company that's all about, writing things in the annual report and everything that just sounds so lovely and perfect, that's, kind of my mindset. And to see that there's a report where we're saying we fell short, here were our goals and we didn't meet all of them. And there's lots of work left to do. That initially made me uncomfortable, but it also really gratified me to see that, again, like someone said, to be vulnerable, to say we're really trying, but there's, we're imperfect and we can't get there. So that, gives me great hope for the future, because I know we'll continue to keep trying to meet those goals.
Like Molly, I am just looking at the report for the first time tonight, but I am incredibly impressed with the depth that you all seem to have gone into as a small organization who's been on the DEAI journey now for several years. I hope to borrow or steal some of the things that you've been working on. So I applaud you all.
Hi, Jeremy Fouts here, Steamwork Group. I hope my mic is now working. Excellent. I did want to first say apologies to Joe. I emailed you last year and you were so open about potentially talking about this with the staff, the organization I was at, and then my position was dissolved. So then there was no real reason to follow up. I was a little disheartened. My apologies there. You were just so kind and willing to talk to me and the organization. What heartens me about and gives me some affirmation is that despite the wideness of those whisker plots, you still had the transparency to share this, and that's a lot easier to say from the outside. But I very much recognize as an evaluator how hard it is to share this kind of information with the broader public, and what that means for accountability for your organization, but also for the field. So thank you.
Tiana here. I wanted to echo what was said previously by Molly and Ricky. I'm looking at the report for the first time right now, but I do also want to echo what's already been said in the room. The ability to be this vulnerable, even points of things that you may or may not be proud of, is really exceptional. And as someone who's on the West Coast, I think this model of just being honest and vulnerable in your space where you are and where you want to go is an excellent model for other museums. So kudos to you all. This is excellent.
One thing that I still find a little surprising is kind of looking at the grades of things and the whisker and box plots, and just kind of knowing how in a single organization that feels so often homogenous, that we can have such different lived experiences. And I think being able to see those reminds me that, there's a lot more to the folks that you work with than maybe what meets the eye. And it serves as a good reminder that, everybody's kind of living their own version of life there. And what might seem like everything's fine and dandy for you does not mean that that's necessarily true for everybody. And so I think, just kind of seeing that the width and breadth of the different scores is something that I still find pretty interesting, and we'll be curious to see how they change over time. Thank you.
Charity here. I feel like multiple people have already brought up the bringing full selves work. I just think that's such an interesting thing to be measuring and thinking about. I think that's really, really important. So I was pleased to see that you all are making an effort to track that and look at it year after year. Is that improving? And then it's not quite like, it's not just been a constant improvement, right? There's been some variation year to year, I'm sure, with staff changes and all of that. Many things affect those data points, but it's great to see you looking at that. But I also was struck by that you are also thinking about staff time and marketing spend, like other things, that not everybody's talking about in this when we think about choices we make and where we're putting our dollars and how we're making it possible for staff to participate in this committee and other things as a part of the process, not just assuming everybody can take this on as another layer of the work, right? Like just this is a commitment beyond. And I think that's really terrific too, that that's part of this report.
I think what I found, what's not so much a surprise, but what I think was unexpected for me. And again, like Carmen, I read this a while back, but I remember being struck by how really your starting point is such a truthful starting point, looking at the organization and where you actually were. And you guys are looking at this as, and I think, Alyssa, you may have said this earlier, it's not a journey to an end, it's a journey to a beginning. In that you can see that throughout this, is that we know what needs to be done and we know just how difficult this is. We're going to have ups and downs, and you guys have been so truthful with yourselves from the very beginning. I think that's what really struck me, because we're doing similar work. We've been at this for a number of years now, and I still, if I'm being honest, I still feel like a lot of our colleagues are not as truthful as what I'm seeing from your report. And that to me is the most important element that I see here, is that starting point and how difficult that was, and are you just pushing through. So that's hats off to you guys.
This is Alyssa here. Just echo so much of what's been shared. And I was rereading the report earlier today, and honestly, what was most unexpected in that moment was that we got it done. And I had this memory actually back to one of the very first meetings where, I mean, it was a group writing project in a lot of ways, but, you know, we debated the format, we debated, you know, the questions we were going to reflect on. We took it back and individuals worked on different versions, and we brought it back to the group. And I think in that way too, Chuck, I mean, just the truthful nature of even embracing the messy process to write the report and invite that debate and discomfort. It's like everything is everything, you know, and so the process that we use to practice writing the report is also the process we use to deepen the work we're doing, and the process we use to then publish it and reflect back. And I'm just incredibly grateful, and again, to the team at the Bakken who's been shepherding it in this way for a long time.
I have not prepared for today, and I did not have a chance to dig into the report. But in light of this conversation, I'm very much looking forward to digging in when I have a chance. So I'm going to pass it to the next person, Katie. Or back to Joe.
Yep. Katie, if you're in a position where it's not safe to talk, please don't. But thank you, everyone, for your comments. The way that we traditionally close these orbits is with a quote, and the quote I selected for today is from John Shedd, and it is, "A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are for." And Charity, back to you.
Thank you so much, Joe. I don't know if everybody fully realizes that, I mean, really what we just got to do there was participate in the Bakken Museum's DEAI committee's meeting about this, right? That we get to reflect and be a part of their process, the way they do this. And I hope you take away from this, you know, the active listening that we've been encouraged to do, but also, you know, some of those reflections and helping you think about this report as a potential model for your organizations. And I just want to say, thanks again to the Bakken for letting us know about this. And it's really been wonderful to get to celebrate this step toward change for you, and you know, your overwhelming transparency with the public, with everyone, about the work you're doing. I will ask us all to unmute in a moment to give one more round of applause for our recipient today, but I want to offer Chuck a chance to say a few words before we wrap up. If you have any final comments on this award and the Bakken and everything.
Again, just honestly, just congratulations again to you all, your teams, and the work that you guys have done. Your work is just so intriguing to me. Again, our organization's been at this sort of work for a number of years, and really want to bring in some of the things that you guys have done and accomplished, and even your approach to help us along in our process as well. Because again, you've demonstrated just how much more can and should be accomplished and done. And I'm just so happy to have been, you know, part of honoring you guys and your work today. So congratulations again, and thank you.
All right, let's all unmute one more time, or use whatever tools you would like to use to say congratulations one more again with a round of applause.
Thank you all.
Congratulations again. To everyone who was able to join us today or listens to this later, I hope you you know, got a little inspiration, maybe even felt a little bit of joy for the work that's happening in our region through the Bakken. And, you know, I know that Joe and Alyssa and Alex and others in the team, I'm sure, would love to hear from you offline if you have questions. So I encourage you to reach out to them and maybe for them to drop in their contact information in the chat for you to access. I also want to just give a shout out for our next up awards event is the Innovative Leadership Award next Thursday, November 2nd. Hope to see many of you join us for that event too. And then I do want to ask our recipients, the DEAI committee, to stay on, if you don't mind, for just one moment at the end here for a quick snapshot of everybody in the room before you go. But thank you again for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of your evening and weekend. Thanks, everybody.